Welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for August 29th through September 4th of 2022. Not the biggest week in the world. However, we've been gearing up for some big changes that we're going to be going through all through the fall and the winter, and that starts this week. Number one, we have Mars sextiling Jupiter to give us a nice little boost this week. Mercury is going to be going opposite Jupiter as well. So a lot of Jupiter action, but the biggest highlight that we have this week is Mars is entering shadow. Now, if you've been following astrology for a while, all of us have been talking about this Mars retrograde that we have at the end of the year. Mars is going to be in the sign of Gemini for like 8 months. That started last week. But this week, when Mars enters shadow, there's going to be something happening that you start or that you begin that you're going to be coming back to at the beginning of January of 2023. So this is a really important week in terms of the next couple of months. So make sure you're paying attention. But before we begin, make sure this weekend we're doing the astrology picnic. Make sure you come through if you're in the Denver area. I've been, promoting this a lot. Let me know if you're coming in the comments below. I don't know if 10 people are coming or 200 people are coming, and I would like a little bit of heads up so I know how much food to bring. But anyway, if you're in the Denver area, we're doing an astrology picnic. We're gonna have some games. We're gonna have some music. It's just gonna be super chill. It's not gonna be, no lectures, nothing boring. It's just gonna be a fun time hanging out with people that are into astrology. So, with that being said, the other thing that we've got going on is Venus is ingressing into Virgo. That's not happening until Sunday night, though, so we really get to enjoy the last couple degrees of Venus in Leo. So let's go ahead and start. I'm doing a few new things here, so let me know how you like them in the comments below. But we're starting Monday off with the moon ingressing into Libra. As it ingresses into Libra, it's going to immediately make a conjunction to Mercury. And as that conjunction happens, I should say right after that conjunction happens, the moon will then apply to a trine with Mars and then go opposite Jupiter. So there's a lot of mercurial things going on right now, right? The moon is going to conjoin Mercury. Mercury is going to trine Mars. Mars is in Gemini, the sign of Mercury. So there's a lot of information, a lot of data. And so the way I want you to look at Monday is a lot of information is going to be received. And the way I want you to also look at it is whatever information is given to you at this time, this is kind of like the facts. There's a lot of truth being kind of laid out here. Now, what's nice is that this is in Libra, and this is, I don't want to say docile, but it's very peaceful the way that this information is going to be brought up. And to pull up the chart here, whoops. There we go. And to pull up the chart here again, when we wake up on Monday, the moon's going to ingress into Libra. The moon is all about our emotions, how we feel. And in Libra, we're just trying to have harmony. We're just trying to have balance. We're just trying to have things nice and peaceful and orderly. Now, what's nice about this, though, is that the moon is going to immediately conjoin Mercury. So it's a lot of data, a lot of information, especially because, again, Mars is in Gemini here, right? Mars is the planet of action and energy in the sign of Gemini, data, information, communication. And so it just seems like to me on Monday is a great opportunity to have a conversation with someone. I'm actually recording 2 podcasts I'm really excited about on Monday, Sunday, for this moon ingress. But when the moon conjoins Mercury, this is really like communicating a message with a soft tone, with, a peaceful, diplomatic tone or a diplomatic sense to how you're coming about the information. Now, why I say diplomatic is Mars is in Gemini. We are using our words and our information as weapons, right? Mars is the planet of fights and conflicts, and in Gemini, it's easy to get into debates. It's easy to argue with people. And if that's not really your thing, this is going to be a really important time to make sure you stay away from the arguments. However, if you do like arguments, the next couple months are going to be great for that. But then after the moon conjoins Mercury and it trines Mars, this is kind of like taking in that information and figuring out what your rebuttal is. If you're over on my Patreon and you watch my rising sign horoscopes, I talked a lot about, and I used the analogy of litigation for this Mercury retrograde. If this is your first time watching, Mercury is right now in shadow, and we're about to be going into a Mercury retrograde. That's actually something that will be going on next week. But as the moon conjoins Mercury, this is receiving the information. So like in litigation, it's kind of like you're arguing back and forth of what the settlement's going to be, what the terms are going to be. And it's very peaceful the way that it's communicated. However, when those people go in the back rooms, it's time to argue, right? The moon is going to conjoin Mercury and it's like, oh, la, 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 la. This is, the terms that we want. And then they don't accept those terms. And then they go in the back room and the moon trines Mars in Gemini. And it's like, okay, how are we going to rebuttal with this? How are we going to, attack this? How are we going to come back with this? And so on Monday, as the moon trines Mars, there is this sense of kind of like, how am I using this information, and how can I pass this information on in a diplomatic sense. But at the end of the day, in litigation and a settlement, you're still fighting for what, you want, and you're still fighting over, I don't want to just say the facts, but this is a great opportunity to fight over, like, hey, given these facts, given this data, this is what I think is fair. And then once the moon leaves that trine to Mars, it will then go opposite Jupiter, which is really like a, hey, this is what I'm presenting to you with. An opposition is when two planets are literally opposing each other, right? One wants to do one thing, the other wants to do the other, and they're at like a Mexican standoff, so to say. And Jupiter in Aries is like, go big or go home. Jupiter's about belief and faith, and it's in Aries, the sign of like action, identity, and ignition. And so this moon in Libra going opposite Jupiter to end off Monday is really going to be like, if this is all the things that you want to grow into, if these are all the actions that you have to take, you have to kind of serve it nicely. Like, for example, if you have dogs or you raise dogs, usually yelling at them and barking at them doesn't do that well. Versus if you're like, come on, boy, let's go. Like, if you get them excited about it, you can make it their idea to come along with you. So when the moon, after it trines Mars in Gemini, you want to understand that you want something to happen, right? And you want to be able to communicate that action. But as the moon's in Libra going opposite Jupiter and Aries, you kind of have to make it their idea. You have to make it fun. You have to say, like, this is the best solution possible. But you do also have to kind of stand your ground. The problem with moon in Libra is it's really easy to get, off kilter or unbalanced with things, right? Super easy to become a doormat. All the Libra placements, doormats. Don't take offense to that. But anyway, we move over to Tuesday. And on Tuesday, I have a couple memes for Tuesday that I really like. I actually really like Tuesday. The moon is going to be trining Saturn the whole time as it sextiles Venus. And so for some of the memes that I have, this one I thought was just funny. No more self-destructive thoughts. This ape has realized that we often suffer more in our imagination than in reality. And despite hardships in the love, and despite the hardships in life, love abounds, and it can always get better. I like this because as the moon's trining Saturn, there is this sense of coming off that moon, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars stuff, and the moon trines Saturn where things are starting to work out. Things are starting to get a little bit better. And this kind of will invoke some confidence in people, especially as Venus is sextiling here. So especially too, if you're nervous to go about this stuff, this is really a good time to like own, your confidence, and not by being brash and bold, but, by being easy, by being, workable. And the other thing too is this is an affirmations post. If you don't follow affirmations on Instagram, you're really missing out. I fucking love this channel. I love this page. But even if I talk a lot about with the Leo Aquarius axis, like, you can't be afraid of looking dumb. Humility is a big part of the Leo Aquarius axis. And I look at this moon in Libra, sextiling Venus in Aquarius, trining Saturn. Don't be afraid to, I like this for not just socializing, but like expressing your ideas, putting yourself out there. This is a great week to be confident about things. And so really the only thing on Tuesday is just, again, the moon is going to be making this trine to Saturn all day long. So, this fairness and this peace and this balance really works in a constructive favor, right? We're able to get our ideas across. I want you to notice that for the next little while, we're going to be having a lot of air activations. Saturn is in an air sign. Mars is in an air sign. Mercury is going to be retrograding in an air sign. And the air signs are all about ideas, right? Saturn in Aquarius has been about like this mental wall of ideas between society, right? Really splitting society in the middle. And this moon in Libra is a great opportunity to extend that olive branch of like, hey, without being super divisive? Is that the word I'm looking for? Without being super arrogant, Mars and Gemini, would love to argue the facts, but with the moon in Libra trining Saturn, you have to be able to get them to listen to you. And if you're just like arguing and yelling, no one's going to listen to you. But if you extend that olive branch, things will work out. And then after the moon trines Saturn, the moon's going to be sextiling Venus for the rest of the afternoon. Venus is still here in Leo, and Venus is the planet of fun and enjoyment, sex, pleasure. She's in Leo, getting some attention, getting some glory. And that moon in Libra sextiling Venus in Leo is such a flirtatious. I was trying to find like a flirty stock image, but like it, you kind of have to be sexy about it, right? If you've worked in sales before, you can't just be like, buy this product. You have to like woo them into it. You have to let them want it. And so this moon sextiling Venus is a great opportunity to like, hey, I have this information, I have these ideas, I have this, moon in Libra, I have something on my heart I want to tell you, but it's going to require a little bit of confidence. Like, all the memes online are like, ugly guys are funny for a reason. And it's because that's how they get, that's how they get women. You have to be funny. You have to be charming. And this moon in Libra, trining Saturn, sextiling Venus is a great opportunity to be charming, especially if you want to get your information across. So as we move forward, we go into Wednesday. Now, the only thing that's going on Wednesday is the moon ingressing into Scorpio. And it's not going to be immediately like panic. This is actually one of the more chill moon and Scorpio transits for a second. We will definitely have some more intense moon and Scorpio transits here coming up in October. But this one's pretty chill. The problem is the moon is in detriment, or my bad, the moon is in fall in Scorpio. And the way I like to look at it is it's like, this is why I use this image of like, there's kind of like this guttural panic that can kind of set in. It can feel very uncomfortable, especially depending on what house Scorpio rules in your chart. So on Wednesday, there is going to be this sense of like, oh, what am I doing? What am I getting myself into? And I mean, really, that's it. The moon's not really going to be making any aspects to any planet. And so I think it's just going to be kind of like sitting with your nervousness, sitting with your anxiety or your uncomfortability, right? The South Node is in Scorpio right now, this little squiggly line. And the South Node represents what you have to purge and what you have to get rid of. And the moon will be conjoining that on Thursday. However, there's going to be this buildup into it of like knowing what you need to get rid of, knowing what you need to purge. And you don't have any obstacles in the way right now. Like, for example, a couple weeks ago, Mars was in Taurus. So the moon in Scorpio and Mars in Taurus kind of made it hard to maybe get rid of things or do the things that you want to do. Versus this moon in Scorpio transit, it's just the moon in Scorpio. No other aspects are really happening. So I think as we go into Wednesday, there is going to be this guttural feeling of like, this is what I need to do. This is what I have to get rid of. This is where I need to change. But it's going to feel uncomfortable on Wednesday. And Wednesday is prepping you for Thursday. Because again, the moon's just going to go into Scorpio on Wednesday. But then as we get into Thursday, the moon will conjoin the South Node and then go opposite Uranus. That is going to bring some upheaval, but Mars sextiles Jupiter at the same time. What are the images I have for this? So I love this picture. I forgot about this one. There's something that you have to cut off here. Scorpio is this, tar pit that can hold you back. And especially with like, Mars being in Gemini of data, this is like, what cord do you have to cut? What, if you're into NLP work, neural pathways, there's certain belief systems that, can override your brain and can make you think a certain way. And there's a certain moment in your life where those beliefs might have served you in certain areas, but no longer do. And this is a really great opportunity to cut those beliefs off. Do I have another image for that? Yeah. And what I love about this transit is the moon's going to conjoin the South Node, right? There's this purge, there's this emptying. But the moon will go opposite Uranus, where it really shakes things up. It can kind of bring some instability, right? Change isn't often easy. Letting go of something that is that's a belief or that's very deep rooted is not easy, and it will cause some instability for the moment, right? Sometimes the Scorpio, right? Our core beliefs are really deep rooted. Traumas can really validate a lot of things in our lives. So when we cut those things off, it can be really easy to become unstable. But Mars sextiles Jupiter, and you don't need any strategy to do it. You have Jupiter's favor on your side. This is one of my favorite memes ever. All right, where were we? Sorry, I had a technical difficulty. I had to edit there. So yeah, you don't need any strategy. You have Jupiter on your side. So the big thing here is, of course, the moon is going to be in Scorpio on K2. Letting go of things, getting rid of things, purging things out. Now, again, the moon is going to go opposite Uranus. So you're going to be thrown, like a wrench is going to be thrown in your plans, and it might be a little unstable to say the least. However, Mars is sextiling Jupiter. Well, besides Mars entering shadow, this is really the big event this week. And that's because Jupiter is in the sign of Mars, right? So that means Jupiter's juice and Jupiter energy is being directly given to Mars, right? So whatever Mars is doing, it's doing very extra. It's doing very big. Now, Mars is going to be in Gemini for quite some time. It's going to be there for all of the rest of August, all of the rest of September, October, November, December, January, February, and all of March. It doesn't actually ingress into Cancer until like the very end of March. Now, this Mars retrograde phase is going to be dealing with, doing two things in one way. Then Mars is going to go backwards and you're going to have to go over it again. And then once Mars station is direct in January, you're going to do it for a third time. So while you might have like plans, you might have things that you might be wanting to do, this would be a really good time. And I even said this in my monthly horoscope on my Patreon. This is a really good time to start something that is that's not permanent, but that's like a trial period, right? And Mars sextiling Jupiter is like Jupiter giving an extra dose of like, energy to whatever Mars is doing. And Mars is very, is focused on stimulation in Gemini, right? Like distracted over here, distracted over there, going this way, going that way. And so this could be really good for like getting two things done. It could also be really bad for getting distracted and, not paying attention, not focusing enough. I think one of the biggest things that is going to be the most challenging with this Mars retrograde is focusing. I have Mars in Gemini and I can't focus to save my life. Well, I'm trying to. But anyway, Mars sextiling Jupiter is a really great, like you don't need, again, a plan. I think you just need the confidence at this moment to just really kind of go for it. Something I like about Mars and Gemini is if Mars is all about action and drive and energy, Gemini is a mutable sign. So it's all about adapting and changing and, doing what works. Mars in Aries is a cardinal sign, so it's much better at initiating and starting. Taurus is a fixed sign, so it's better at stabilizing, but Gemini is a mutable sign, so we're changing things here. So this is a great time to really, again, start things that are changing. Do something different with what your plans are. But again, if you are starting something, this is a great time for a trial period that you're going to be coming back over a few times over the next few months. This isn't a good time to start something like permanent. So anyway, as we move on, as we go into Friday, the moon is going to be at the later degrees of Scorpio, squaring Venus, and then it will go into Sagittarius. At the same time, Mercury is opposite Jupiter. Now, there's a few things to say here. I think the one thing is that it's going to be something I don't like about the moon in Scorpio squaring Venus in Leo is it's kind of like, and I've been using wedding analogies lately because I used to be a wedding DJ, but like moon in Scorpio squaring Venus in Leo is like, if you're like a bride or like a bridezilla and you have all these plans, you have this perfect wedding that you want to do and it doesn't go your way, it's like holding on to that anger and that pain and trying to control a situation that you're not really in control of is going to be more damaging for you than it is going to be helpful for the situation. And so there's going to be this process of kind of getting over yourself. I think it's going to be really easy to be kind of like self-loathing, like the moon in Scorpio squaring Venus in Leo, or Venus in Leo is like, maybe you're going out on a stage, but everyone's looking at you, so you feel very uncomfortable about it than you normally would. But then as the moon ingresses into Sagittarius, something I really like about the end degrees of Scorpio going into Sag is, I'm going to have to play with my mic here. I think a lot about a bow and arrow. So you have to pull all of that back, that you have to pull that, I'm going to sound so dumb. The rubber, the thingy, the pulley thing, you got to pull it all the way back, right? And Scorpio is all about holding on to things and pulling it all the way down. And some of the personal development work I've done, they've shown these charts that's like, imagine a big rubber band on like a piece of paper. And above this piece of paper is like, your dreams, your wishes, your hope, gratitude, X, Y, and Z. And below that rubber band is like pain, resentment, revenge, all of those, bad things. Scorpio, in my opinion, is when you pull that rubber band down and you get super, super deep into your pain, your resentment, your trauma, but when you let it go, you get shot up. And that's the difference between going into Scorpio and Sagittarius, right? So on Friday, there is going to be this process of kind of like, hey, I don't like the moon squaring Venus here, or because Venus and Leo, it's like being on a stage and being seen, but the moon's in Scorpio, you're having a shitty day. So it's like, if you just got dumped or, something just happened to your family, but you still have to perform, it's really hard and it can kind of get in your way. But there is this feeling of just kind of letting go and being in it. Like if you're a performer, like it doesn't matter what crap that you're going through at home. The second you stand on stage, all of that fades away because you're there and it's time to perform. And it's so much more enjoyable when you can just have that energy. Something I've talked about a lot is like in my client work. Personally, like I'm a human being, so I'm worried about my life and my problems most of the time. And I love doing clients because I get an hour to not worry about my life and my stuff and help someone else out. And that moon in Sagittarius moment is like that moment where you're like, all right, fuck all of this stuff. I'm here to have fun. Fuck all of my pain. I'm here to have a good time. And I think the other thing here too is Mercury is going opposite Jupiter on this day. And, again, Libra is all about balance, duh. But Mercury is, again, like rationality. And going opposite Jupiter and Aries is like, what is the most rational way to go about this? What is the, and I don't even say just go about this, but like Mercury is going to be also communicating things, right? And it's in Libra, the sign of Venus. Venus is in Leo. So this is communicating things in a very, for lack of a better word right now, like a sexy tone or a very fun, flirtatious way. But as it's opposite Jupiter and Aries, it's like, getting someone's attention isn't like, oh, look at me, look at me. It could be as simple as like, coming up to someone and saying something very subtle and very slight that grabs their attention. Now, the one thing I will say, though, is with Jupiter and Aries, it's so like, Jupiter is literally the sign of like faith and belief. And, wherever Jupiter's at is kind of like, if you want to just do a collective reading, you can just see wherever Jupiter's at to see where people's hope and faith is at. And in Aries, the sign of war and combat and action, it's very like, no, it has to be like this way. I have to just bulldoze my way into it, Kool-Aid man my way into the room. And Mercury going opposite Jupiter is like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, to go back to the wedding analogies, brides love to do grand entrances, and it's like, okay, that's fun and everything, but does it have to be as spectacular and grand as you might want it to be? Or what is a way that you can do that still gets your needs met, but that isn't like, impossible to do? And I think Mercury and Libra going opposite Jupiter too at the same time is kind of seeing the bigger picture. Like with the moon going into Sagittarius, it's just going to completely change the vibe. You'll feel really down in the dumps early on Friday, but then later into the afternoon and the evening on Friday, you'll feel a lot more free. You're going to feel a lot more fun. You're going to be feeling a lot better. But Mercury opposite Jupiter is really like, okay, if I want to do all of this Jupiter and Aries stuff, also like, do you have help? The big thing I love talking about with Libra, and this is something that doesn't come up about, it's like the sign of relationships. Are you asking for help? If Jupiter and Aries is like, I can do it all on my own, Mercury and Libra, it might be someone being like, hey, like, let me help you with that. Do you guys need to ask for help? Do you have people around you that can support you? And I think Mercury opposite Jupiter might be someone being like, you can't do it on your own. Or you might be going up to someone and being like, I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And so it's going to take some a little bit of like moon and Scorpio, like, fuck, I don't want to ask for help. But the second the moon goes into Sag, it's like, wow, this is going to make my life so much easier. Then we get into Saturday. And I love Saturday. Again, I'm all fire and air in my chart. So this is just lighting me up. So the moon's in Sag, right? It's going to trine Jupiter. So it's going to like be uplifted by Jupiter in the sign that it's in. It's going to sextile Mercury, which is like, a nice little, boost. Then it's going to go opposite Mars. And this is also when Mars enters shadow. Saturday's a big day. The one thing I want to talk about is this used to be me. This was totally me when I was first doing astrology videos, getting yacked out and just going ham. This is the energy I want you to encapsulate on Saturday. Like, if there was a day where the crack energy or the Adderall energy or the cokehead energy is alive, it is Saturday. If you want to go out and make plans on Saturday, perfect time to do it. If you want to go, like, Saturday is a very energetic day, a lot going on. So the moon will first, again, trine Jupiter, which, like, the moon's in Sag now. There's, like, all of this hope and opportunity and growth to expand into. And Jupiter's trining it where it's like, yeah, you're the one that can do it. Yeah, you're the one that could push through. And then the moon sextiles Mercury where it's like that help, that assistance. And Mercury also rules assistance, too. That moon sextiling Mercury is like, hey, if I can, push off this work to this person, or if this person can help me with this, it just gets the ball rolling. The only thing is that the moon goes opposite Mars and Gemini here, and this is why I did the Adderall meme, is like, you got to stay focused. It's going to be very hard to stay focused, and that's going to be true for the next few months. But that moon in Sag opposite Mars and Gemini is like being pulled in two different directions of like, all my ambitions are here, but I got this to do and I got this to do. And it's going to be hard to like structurally organize that. Now that's going to be a thing for like Monday when the moon goes into Capricorn and it's going to be all business and seriousness. But that moon opposite Mars is, I think, a great opportunity to try to get as much done as you can. And even if it's scattered, it's fine. Just get it done. But Mars enters shadow. This is where Mars is going to come back to in the end of January of 2023. So Mars is going to hit this degree. It's going to go forward all through September, all through October. Then it's going to hit about 25 degrees right here. On Halloween, it's going to station retrograde. Halloween will be weird. It's going to come backwards, and then it'll move backwards all the way until January, the end of January, around the 19th, I think, is when Mars will come back to this degree. So there's something that you're starting and that you're doing on this weekend that's happening, that's initiating, that you're going to come back to in January. Like, again, I'm also having SJ on my podcast, and I've mentioned him, SJ Anderson. Some people didn't know who I was talking about. He's an astrologer on YouTube. Go look him up. He did a couple videos about the Mars and Gemini, but he did one that was really, really good. And he talks a lot about like planning and like making your plans and going over your plans. And I think this is a really good time to be like, this is the plan. This is what I'm going towards, or at least what I'm working myself into. This is not the time to like do something permanent that you want to last forever. This is the time to get the ball rolling and to have a trial period, right? To have to, you know, what is it called? Not diagnostics, troubleshooting. This is a good troubleshooting energy. So then as we go into Sunday, which on Sunday is the astrology picnic, and my next weekly video will be posted. Make sure you're at the astrology picnic. It's going to be fun. Let me know in the comments below if you're coming. I need to know how many people I should be expecting, but only comment if you're actually coming. Don't be like, I'm coming, and then don't come. But the moon will be sextiling Saturn and trining Venus all day. And it's not until later that evening, or after sunset essentially, the moon is going to ingress into Capricorn and Venus will ingress into Virgo. So there's two images I have for this. One, this is the one button I will not push. If you are a hustler, if you've attended Hustlers University, I think I'm going to make a video about Andrew Tate's birth chart because I love the idea of Hustlers University. It's so funny. I can't get it out of my head. Like, I wanted to make a joke of like, oh, thank God for the federal government paying off my student loans to Hustler University. But anyway, this is a great day to carry that momentum. I always talk about the moon being into Capricorn, about like getting your work done, detaching from your emotions, just to focus on your work. And that also helps alleviate emotions too, most of the time. This is a great energy to build up into that. So like Sunday, the moon will be in Sag, trining Venus. There's all this glory. There's all of this like fun. This is why I picked this day. I got another image before I show you the chart. But Venus enters Virgo and the moon goes into Capricorn. I just like this for Venus and Virgo of all of the food and the air is completely polluted and full of microplastics and all sorts of chemicals, but I just wanted to have this meme. Anyway, here's the thing. This is why I picked this day, by the way. Venus on Regulus, 29 Leo, moon's going to be in Sag. The moon and Sag transits are always times for partying. Like, you can literally go downtown in any city. It doesn't matter what day it is, but if the moon's in Sag, I guarantee you it's going to be much more lit than normal. But the moon's going to be trining Venus. Have some fun. You know, like moon and Sag is like, have some excitement. It's trining Venus and Leo. Like, go big or go home. You know, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to, you know, do the things that are going to actually make you feel like you're having a good time. And then once we get into the Sunday evening, that's when the moon, of course, is going to ingress into Capricorn. And that's where it's like, all right, got to detach from the emotions, got to detach from things. And then Venus will enter Virgo. Now, we'll be talking more about Venus and Virgo next week. But Venus is, again, fun, love, romance, you know, connections. And as she goes into Virgo, this is going to be the sign of her fall. And the biggest thing with this is that, you know, Venus in Virgo, well, the analogy I like to make is it's kind of like when you overthink fun and like pleasure, you take the fun out of it. And that's like Virgo. Virgo is like, you know, have you ever been with those people? I'm too Sagittarius rising for some people like this, but like where you just want to go on an adventure and people are like, okay, we need this itinerary, we need this, and we need that. And I'm like, you don't need any of that stuff. Just go. And so Venus going into Virgo is going to feel a little anxious about like, you know, wanting to enjoy everything, but it has to be in the right details. It has to be planned out. It has to be organized. it's going to be a little challenging to, I don't want to say have fun, but Venus going into Virgo is going to shift the vibe from like Venus and Leo is like, you know, glory and attention to detail, to perfection. I talked about this too, I think, on my live monthly overview and my rising sign horoscope. So I do a monthly overview and I do rising sign horoscopes on my Patreon. But I talked about like, I grew up with my sister and my mom, and they always used to watch America's Next Top Model. I think I actually talked about this last week. And they grill those women. I mean, those girls got to walk away with like so many mental disorders because they just grill them. But the problem with Venus and Virgo is like, if you want to be beautiful, like you got to fucking take some criticism. You got to take some feedback. And Venus and Virgo is like picking apart the little tiny details that you don't want others to see, that you would rather just kind of ignore. So there is going to be this uncomfortable feeling to it, but Venus and Virgo is a really excellent time to like take that criticism, perfect things. If you're not enjoying it, make it better. That's like humans' purpose here, is you finding a problem and making it better. And I think Venus and Virgo is a great opportunity to realize what problems are there. You know, Venus and Virgo too is kind of like organization in the sense of feng shui. Like, you know, this isn't ordered correctly. This doesn't feel good enough. It feels too tight. But this moon in Sag, trining Venus and Leo, super, super great. Sounds like really fun. And then by the time we get into Sunday evening, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to business. It's time to get, you know, real with stuff. Was that the only thing? Yeah. Wait. Yeah. So pretty much Sunday day looks amazing. When we get to Sunday night, the tone's going to calm down a little bit, and we're going to get into more of that Earth stuff that we want. That's not Mars and Taurus. And that leads us to next week. Next week, we're going to have the full moon in Pisces. I actually kind of like the full moon in Pisces. I think it's a lot more fun. But then Mercury stations retrograde. Like I said before, Mercury's in shadow right now. So all of this stuff that we're communicating, all of this stuff that we're talking about, we still have to have Mercury go retrograde. So while Mercury might be direct this week and there's all this information kind of going on and all this communication, there's something that's going to change, get delayed, or reverse when Mercury goes retrograde. So like in this litigation example, you know, you might be like, oh, I think they're going to settle for this. They might come back and be like, actually, no. And you're going to have to go over this all over again. And we'll be talking more about that as the weeks go on. And so final thoughts. Really, my final thoughts are, what do you guys think about the white background? What do you guys think about the images? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really like this week. It's funny. I was going through the astrology of 2022, and while this week has major transits, it's relatively chill. Because typically, like, there was like a week in May where it was like an eclipse, a Jupiter ingress, a Mercury retrograde. It was like all of the things, and Saturn station retrograde. It was like all of the things you could ever think of all at the same time, versus this is just, you know, Mars entering shadow and Venus going into Virgo. It's not that big of a deal. But all of this air, all of this fire energy is all about creating things and all about like starting things. So like there's a lot of ambition this week, and I really think this is a good week to lean into that. However, this is a trial period. This is not about doing things permanently. This is about learning. This is about adapting. This is about changing. So when we do go into that permanent phase, which is going to be around the end of January, which really like January, not really the beginning of January, but like the end of January will be really the time to initiate and get things going. So anyway, with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please give this a like if you really like this video. It actually really helps me out. Again, let me know in the comments below what you're looking forward to, what's going to be affecting you the most. And with that being said, I'll be seeing you guys next week.